Hello, it's Saturday the 18th of April. You're tuned in to our late night newscast coming to you from Arirang's news centre in Seoul. I'm Mark Broome. Our top story tonight, President Park Geun-hye is in Colombia on the first leg of her four-nation tour of South America. On Friday local time, the Korean leader held summit talks with her Colombian counterpart. Topping their agenda was boosting ties in the e-commerce, energy and infrastructure sectors, as well as the implementation of their bilateral free trade deal. Choi You-sun reports.
Extending their first summit talks by half an hour, President Park Geun-hye and Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos talked extensively about how to strengthen and diversify their economic cooperation. A total of 18 new deals were signed on Friday. Some of the deals will systematically match up the Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency with Korean home shopping and distribution companies, as well as the Colombian E-commerce Association, to help Korean SMEs launch their business in South America. By sharing its e-commerce know-how and technologies, Korea expects to meet the growing demand for e-commerce in the region and increase related exports to $3 billion in 5 years. One of Bogota's modernization initiatives is a $1 billion project on electric buses. Following pilot projects with Colombia, Korea hopes to export its electric battery leasing and wireless charging systems that can reduce battery cost and charging time. Korea and Colombia have also agreed to work together in smart grid technology and railway construction and management. An implementation of their bilateral free trade pact was also something the two leaders hoped would happen soon. It's expected to increase Korean exports to Colombia by nearly $2 billion in 10 years and create more than 2,000 jobs over the same period.
콜롬비아 FTA에 콜롬비아 헌법재판소의 검토 절차가 조기에 완료가 되면 양국 국민이 보다 빨리 혜택을 누리게 될 거라고 생각합니다.
On their final day in Bogota, President Park plans to meet with Colombian veterans who fought in the Korean War. She plans to thank them for their bravery and sacrifice that laid a foundation for Korea's development. She will then depart for Peru, the second leg of her South America tour. Choi You-sun, Arirang News, Bogota.
Korea's finance minister has asked China to ensure Korea's interests are reflected in Beijing's soon-to-be-established Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Juan made the remarks to his Chinese counterpart, Lo Ji-wei, on the sidelines of a G20 financial ministerial gathering in Washington. The Chinese official said Beijing would work closely with Seoul on the matter. He also said the AIIB's founding members would begin their negotiations in the Chinese capital on April 27th. Chair also met with officials from credit rating firm Standard & Poor's. He called on the agency to raise Korea's sovereign credit rating given the country's economic improvement in recent months. And the group of 20 leading economies say they feel hopeful on the outlook for global growth. Wrapping up their two-day meeting in Washington, G20 finance ministers and central bankers said in a communique that they welcomed brighter economic signs in rich nations, but did note some weakness in emerging markets. They said that near-term prospects in the Eurozone and Japan have improved recently, while the US and Britain continue to record solid growth, which could support a stronger global recovery. Now, Greece was not mentioned by name in the communique, as the country's economic woes did not feature in the formal discussions. In a major diplomatic victory for Korea, the United States and Japan have agreed to tweak their joint defense guidelines, so Tokyo would have to get the green light from Seoul before any Japanese troops could come to the Korean peninsula in an emergency situation. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
Korea, the United States and Japan have agreed that Washington and Tokyo's joint defense cooperation guidelines should be revised so they respect the sovereignty of third countries. The Pentagon says the revised guidelines will reflect Korea's demand that Japan should get prior consent from Seoul before it can respond to contingencies on the Korean peninsula. The agreement was reached during the three countries' annual defense talks known as the Trilateral Dialogue. The chief delegates in Washington were Korea Deputy Defense Minister Yoo Jae-sung, U.S. Assistant Secretary of Defense David Scheer, and Japan's Vice Defense Minister Tokuchi Hideshi. The Pentagon said the officials agreed on the importance of promoting defense initiatives in a way that contributes to regional peace and stability. Washington and Tokyo are now in the final stages of revising the guidelines, first agreed in 1997, to reflect changes in regional and global security situations. It's hoped the revisions will be finalized when Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe visits the U.S. at the end of the month. The pact has been watched carefully in Korea as it's expected to reflect Tokyo's decision to exercise its right to collective self-defense, which empowers Japan to fight alongside its allies, such as the U.S., even if Japan itself is not attacked. South Korea has been concerned that Japan could send troops to the Korean peninsula in the name of aiding the U.S. in the event of a sudden conflict with North Korea. South Koreans still have painful memories of Japan's brutal colonial rule of Korea in the early 20th century. Kim Han-bin, Arirang News.
A top US expert on North Korea is urging Washington to find ways to include North Korea in the Northeast Asia economy. In an interview with Voice of America, former US Special Representative for North Korea Policy Stephen Bosworth said the North might feel less inclined to launch provocations if the regime felt it could benefit from cooling tensions in the region. He said that if the US could coax North Korea into the regional economy, Pyongyang would have to think twice before test firing missiles or conducting nuclear tests, as it would have more of an effect on the country's economy. Bosworth also noted that North Korea appears to be taking big strides forwards in terms of its nuclear capabilities and could have a much more powerful arsenal in just 5 years' time. Now, with by-elections less than 2 weeks away, Korea's rival parties have been hitting the campaign trail on this Saturday. Running into the first weekend of the campaign, ruling Saenuri Party leader Kim Moo-sung visited 2 out of 4 constituencies where by-elections will be held on April 29th. He focused on Ganghwa-do Island in Incheon for the second day straight and then moved to Seoul's Gwanak-B district in the afternoon. The leader of the main opposition New Politics for Alliance for Democracy, Moon Jae-in, started off the day over there at Incheon's Ganghwa-do Island before heading to the southwestern city of Gwangju. US President Barack Obama has called on his diplomats to get creative in their negotiations with Iran to ensure the recently inked nuclear framework deal doesn't fall apart. His remarks come as Iran has been insisting that sanctions be lifted as soon as the final deal is signed. The US wants them removed in phases as Tehran follows through on obligations to scale back its nuclear facilities. Speaking at a press conference at the White House, Obama said he was more concerned with creating a system for reimposing the punitive measures if Iran is caught cheating than in the timing and structure of sanctions relief. Negotiators from the US, Iran and other world powers will meet in Vienna next week to resume discussions aimed at forging a final deal by the June 30th deadline. Police in Australia have arrested 5 teenagers on charges of plotting an Islamic State-inspired terror attack. Victoria State Police say the teens were planning a major attack in Melbourne to mark the centenary next week of the Anzac landings at Gallipoli during the First World War. There have been reports that the plot included plans to kill police officers. All 5 men, aged 18 and 19, were arrested on Saturday morning during raids in the suburbs of the city. Police say they seized an Islamic State flag, a machete and a video allegedly disclosing the plot. Ceremonies are due to be held across Australia on April 25th to remember the Australian and New Zealand soldiers who fought and died for their country. Now, more and more people in cities around the world are getting involved in urban farming, which is basically growing your own food. Living in a huge city like Seoul makes this quite challenging with the limited living space most people have and the lack of private land people have, if they have any at all. But the city government says it's here to help by setting up hundreds of urban vegetable gardens around the Korean capital. Connie Kim reports.
At this urban farm, people are busy carrying fertilizer, shoveling and pulling vegetables. They visit the farm once or twice a week to pick their crops to share with their families, friends, and neighbors.
Pesticides are not used here at all, so the vegetables are healthier and much fresher. Being a part of this whole process is really fun.
It's a priceless opportunity. The only catch is most of these farms are located on the outskirts of the city, making them harder to frequent. But that will soon change. The Seoul city government is injecting about $46 million to transform unused spaces at schools, parks, and even apartment rooftops to activate urban farming. By 2018, it plans to establish 1,800 vegetable gardens within a 10-minute walking distance from all homes in the capital. A special farm zone will also be set up to train Seoulites to become professionals in urban agriculture.
Urban agriculture is no longer an option, but a requirement to restore the ecosystem. We are going to activate farming in the city that everyone can be part of.
Farming in the city is expected to branch out further as Seoul plans to create an online integrated system where people can swap information and an open market for agricultural products. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, before we go, leaving you with a brief look at the weekend weather, and it has been a beautiful spring day around much of the country today, but conditions are going to be quite a bit different on Sunday because there's going to be light rain in the forecast for most of the central region. With that, let's take a look at Sunday's readings in Korea and the weather conditions around the world. And those are the stories we have for you at this hour. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out our website, arirang.co.kr/news, and do download our smartphone application for all the latest programs as well. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.